Okay, hi, my name is Michael Witkowski. I'm a second year student here at Lancaster University, and today I'm joined here by one of our alumni students, Nicola Cook. Hello, Nicola. It's great to have you here. How are you doing?
Hi, very good, thank you. How are you?
Good, thank you. Okay, Nicola, so now that I've done the most basic part of the introduction, could you just please tell us a little bit about yourself and about what you studied here at Lancaster?
Yeah, of course. I came to Lancaster in 2014, so it doesn't feel that long ago, but it is getting on. It is getting on for a while ago now. And I studied my BSc psychology undergrad first, and then I stayed for an extra year and did a master's in psychological research methods as well. So I was there for 4 years.
Quite a long time ago.
It doesn't feel it, but yeah, it is actually when you put it into perspective. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, and what's your current job?
So I currently work as a senior research assistant at Pearson. So they're a leading learning company based all across the world, and they're involved in lots of different aspects of learning, like the GCSEs and A levels, and in all different countries. But I work in a smaller division of the company that focuses on assessments and clinical assessments. So we publish assessments for all kinds of different settings, healthcare settings, educational settings, and their psychometric assessments and interventions across the field. So it could be a test for someone who's suspected of having autism spectrum disorder, someone who's struggling with exams, feels like they might need some more time, maybe they've got dyslexia. We do screening tests for that kind of thing. All the way across, we do depression scales, infant development, motor disorders. So it's a very varied job. But yes, I'm a research assistant in that field, and I had that job since I came out of uni. I applied for jobs and got a position as a research assistant after my master's, and about a year and a half ago, I was promoted to a senior research assistant in the same team. So I've been there about 4 years now.
Yeah, sounds really interesting. And what's exactly your responsibilities in the company? Do you develop those
Assessment.
assessments?
Yeah, so it's a mixture really. It depends on the assessment. Sometimes an academic will come to us with an idea or an assessment that they've developed and they want to bring to publication. Most often it's an existing assessment that we're just bringing up to date, developing a new edition of, renorming it so it's like relevant for the current society. Yeah, I'm involved through mainly the research, the data collection part of it, but I am involved at various points in the project. So the one I'm currently working on is a new assessment, a new edition of an assessment, and we're working directly with the authors. So they're academics and leaders in their field, and I've worked with them to sort of try out the assessment, test it out on thousands of people across the UK. But I've also been involved in the more production aspect of this project. So I've been looking at how we're going to choose the right ball to use in the assessment, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but actually when you're talking about standardized assessments, it's like quite important that all the materials are exactly right and they can be consistent for years to come. So yeah, I am involved in the development in terms of making the assessments, but more often than not, I'm focused on the data collection part. So when we publish an assessment, a large part of that is publishing the norms, and that is the data tables you'll find in the manuals to know how an individual of certain demographics, be it their age, their sex, how they typically perform. And then the professional administering the assessment will know whether the individual they've assessed is performing above or below average for that certain demographic, and therefore know whether they might need further intervention. So, like I mentioned, a dyslexia test, say a 10-year-old took it, they'd be able to look in the manual and see how a typical male 10-year-old would perform, and if the individual they were assessing scored significantly lower than that or higher than that, they might know that that individual would benefit from some extra support and maybe a diagnosis of dyslexia. So those norming tables is the focus of my role. So to develop those, we test hundreds of participants across the UK, and and we ensure that the sample that we do is stratified exactly by the census. So it means that we're hunting and searching across the UK for exactly the right amount of 10-year-old females from Scotland, and matching all the ethnicities and all of the different diverse demographics to make sure our sample is completely representative. So that's where my role is mainly focused, finding those participants, getting them tests, working with examiners to get those participants test, managing the data collection phase.
Yeah, really, really interesting stuff. A lot of work goes into developing this. I didn't even realize, but when you go to the site of your company, I looked at the products, really long list. So I imagine there's a lot to do. Is there anything you particularly enjoy about your job, like your favorite part of it?
I really enjoy the diversity of it. So I'm not just doing the same thing every single day. And I think that's quite similar to the study of psychology in general. It's quite a broad subject, and my job is quite broad. So I don't spend every day entering data. Sometimes I will, but sometimes I'll be launching a social media advert to try and find participants that I particularly need. Like at the moment, I'm particularly searching for 16 to 25-year-olds with a diagnosis of dyspraxia. So it's very specific. So so sometimes I'm like launching social media adverts. Sometimes I'm trying to find an occupational therapist who can help do the test with me. So how varied it is probably what I enjoy about it the most, I'd say.
Interesting. Okay, and what would you say, how do you apply what you studied in your degree to your current line of work?
I think there are many useful things I learned in my degree that I, without noticing it, probably use on a day-to-day basis. So obviously my whole job is pretty much research methods. So the modules I took in research methods and statistics are probably the most relevant to my job. And obviously that's what I did my master's in as well. So the practices of data management, sampling, all of those type of things, that is literally my job. So those things are very aligned. But also the things about ethics, just a general awareness and understanding of all the ethical guidelines, that just is a baseline of what I do, talking to participants and examiners and just managing data. But the more subtle things as well, like talking to researchers, talking to academics, talking with my peers, networking, those kind of things are all really useful, and help me to identify professionals in the field that I could work with. And also the modules I took have just given me a really good awareness of the conditions that I'm helping develop assessments for. So I took both developmental and clinical modules throughout my degrees, and obviously those are really beneficial to me. I'm not an expert in any one particular field, but I feel like I've got a very good baseline understanding of various conditions like autism or the whole list. But when I'm going on to develop an assessment in that sort of field, it's good to just have a basic awareness of what's involved, how those individuals might behave a bit different to a typically developing individual, how we might need to adapt our recruitment process, for example. I think a lot of things actually, when you break it down, have been really beneficial, but I wouldn't say it's as obvious as just the whole degree was directly related. It's more about the skills and the general awareness of psychology and the general awareness of the topics I've studied that have stuck with me. The actual facts and figures that are drilled into your brain for exams and things, can't say I remember many of those, but the general basis of a lot of things are invaluable.
Yeah, I think that's the case for most of us. We just sort of have to accept that we're gonna forget half of the stuff here, but it's important that we have some basics and remember the important stuff. So say when you were in like your first and second year, did you already know that research is something that interests you and you probably want to go in that direction?
It's hard. I had an interest in a lot of things. For quite a while, I was interested in becoming an educational psychologist because I was very interested in developmental psychology. I also took criminology as my minor in first year, and I was quite interested in forensic psychology. but yeah, research in general was something that I enjoyed. I enjoyed just the practice of research, data, collecting data, analysing data, that kind of thing. But as my second and third year came around, it became quite clear that I didn't want to do a PhD. But I enjoyed the practice of research and the practice of data collection, not so much the writing up and the literature reviews and that kind of thing. So I didn't know exactly this job, but I did start to develop a general idea that research in general would be what I wanted to go into. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the company you work for, like Pearson, obviously very, very well-known company, about 2,000 employees worldwide. But let's focus on your division, so the clinical assessment group, about 700 employees worldwide. And when I was looking for the number of the people employed here in the UK, I came across a number of about 60. So one could make an argument that it's a fairly small group. So probably getting a job there, it's quite hard. It's probably quite competitive. So could you just tell us a little bit about how you ended up working for them?
Yeah, sure. That I think that number 60 probably takes into account all of the marketing and salespeople as well. Because in my team, the team that developed the assessments is actually only 7, so it's a really small
Wow.
team.
Yeah.
But no, the recruitment process was actually a lot more relaxed than I expected for such a large company. I'd applied to some other places where I had to go to multiple rounds of interviews and multiple assessment centre type things. This job I just saw online. I did an application form, the standard cover letter, CV. Heard back and was invited for an interview. And after the interview, I think I did a short task as well, just a data entry task, and then found out that I'd got it. So it was relatively painless compared to some other companies. But of course, like you said, it is quite competitive. But I really do think the grounding that I had at Lancaster did help set me apart in the application process. So by the time I'd got to the interview, I think I'd already ticked quite a few boxes. You know, the masters I'd done. Not that you need a masters for the job I'm doing, but I think it certainly helped set me apart because the job I was applying for was to conduct research, and I'd done a master's in psychological research. So I think that was quite a few boxes ticked. I don't know how your courses are set out now, but I used SPSS for my undergraduate degree, but in my master's degree we learn R, and I think that was a major.
So we're doing R now as well.
Yeah,
I think they changed it like in the year I started. So last year I think
great.
it was changed. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that again was another thing that set me apart. Again, it wasn't a requirement of the job, but I was applying perhaps with people who hadn't got that background. And whilst we do have a dedicated psychometrics team, it's really useful. Obviously, I'm dealing with data day to day. It's really easy for me just to grab some data and, you know, run some quick analysis. So I think that again set me apart. But also the more subtle things like the opportunities that Lancaster offered me, I really made a conscious effort to throw myself into as many things as possible. So I was a psychology ambassador, helped out on the open days, and things like that might just seem quite trivial, like an easy way of making a bit of money, which it is. But it was also great to talk to other people that I wouldn't have necessarily spoken to, other year groups, other members of staff that I hadn't come across, people visiting the university. And it also, you know, again, is another skill set. So it's not just about you got whatever grade in your degree. It's, you know, what else have you done? How are you as a person? How are you going to fit in with the team? How are you going to be able to liaise with external clients? That kind of thing. So all of those skills that I developed through working and part-time work at university. I also did a PEP placement. I'm not sure if you still have that, but I went.
Yeah, we still do.
Yeah, so I did a couple of those, and honestly, that would be my number one tip, is to try and find one that interests you and just get some experience. It doesn't matter if it's not directly related to exactly what you want to do, but it's just having those connections and just being able to demonstrate that you've been able to talk to researchers and talk to academics and be in a more work-based environment. It's just invaluable. It gives you so much to talk about in the interview. Because once you're in an interview, they've already seen what grade you've got in your degree, on your cover letter and your CV. It's I don't even remember talking about it. It's kind of like, that's a given, you've got a degree. Now, who are you as a person? So I think when you're applying for a job, I was always like, oh, I need to get the best grades. And of course, yeah, it's good to get as best grade as you can, but it's by no means the end of the story. It's much more about who you are as a person, how you can demonstrate the skills that you are saying you've got.
Yeah, I think that's some great points you've made here. And you also mentioned the grant that you got from the Lancaster University. So while I was doing my little research, I actually came across a bit of text that you wrote, and it's still on the uni website. And in it you said that what really helped you throughout your degree was regular meetups with academic advisor. So looking back at it, after you've graduated a few years, you're already working different setting, clear mind. Do you actually think that the uni was successful in helping you and supporting you throughout the degree, as well as developing your skills that potentially got you where you are today? Or maybe it's the opposite. Now you see that some things could have been better and could have been changed.
No, I think on the whole it was a very good basis for setting me up for future life. I mean, obviously it worked out well. I didn't have to wait too long before I found a job, and I've ended up really loving that job and sticking with it. So I guess if I had struggled to find a job or got into a job that I didn't like, perhaps maybe my opinions would have been different. But I don't know. I feel like the education itself was great. You hear other, friends from school or people might have similar experiences or different experiences, but I definitely had some friends doing psychology at other universities who maybe had a bit more textbook based learning, whereas I felt like I was learning from people who'd just done a study or just done a research paper in a very similar subject. So the lectures were more up to date, they were more relevant and like research focused, and they felt more real world. So I think the education itself was great. But also what sticks out to me the most when I think back is all the extra opportunities. So yeah, the PEP placements, the opportunities for part-time work, just being around the department, just throwing yourself into things like I do remember at the time me purposefully trying to throw myself into as many things as possible, and I think that is what sticks out the most, the experiences I had, the people I met, the academics I spoke to, and yeah, like you mentioned, the academic advisors. That's such a great resource. Like, it might not seem like it when you've got to get up for 9 a.m. And you're tired, but it really is worth it. Like, they're a leading academic in their field. You're paying all this money to get a good education. You might as well go and just see what they have to say. They might know someone who could help you. They might know someone in the field that you're hoping to go into. They might be able to put you in touch with an organisation that you might be able to get some work experience from. Like, it's just a wasted opportunity if you don't make the most of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And yeah, that's just some good points. And you made a good point that actually the course itself is just I don't want to say a small part of the whole uni experience, but especially in psychology degree, I think it's not everything. So I think even your grade is less important than some of the experience you can get here through like different means. Okay, so we're slowly nearing the end. So just one final question, a bit more casual. What do you remember about life in Lancaster?
A lot of rain.
Oh, yeah, unfortunately.
But no,
that hasn't changed. Yeah.
no. I would say the people I met probably sticks out the most. I had a really good group of course friends, a really good group of people I lived with, people that I joined societies with. So I'd say just the huge variety of people, whether that be staff or peers. Yeah, just a huge number of different people you got to meet and learn from and talk with, probably.
Yeah. Okay. Great. It's been really great talking to you today. I really appreciate you coming here.
No worries.
I appreciate your time. and I wish you best luck in your professional career and success.
Thank you, and good luck with the rest of your degree.
Oh yeah, thank you. I will need it.